The guys at Gold and Silver see all kinds of unique items, and it's up to them to separate the junk from the treasure in order to keep their shop profitable while providing a fair and honest deal to customers. Despite generations of experience and a team of crack experts in everything from musical instruments to antiquities, they've gotten pretty good at making a buck. Unfortunately though, there are still times when things just don't go right. Sometimes it's because a customer wants to rip them off, and sometimes it's because someone just makes a bad choice. Today, we're looking at 10 deals that went horribly wrong for the Pawn Stars, and you don't want to miss number 1, the most costly period in Pawn Stars history. Before we get into today's video, make sure you show some love for Top 5 Best by taking a moment to smash that like button, leave us a comment, subscribe, and last but not least, share this video with your friends. Now, let's get started. Number 10. Shekel of Tyre. On the surface, a Tyrian shekel may seem like an undeniably timeless artifact, and in a sense it is. Tyrian shekels are an old world form of currency, dating back to 126 BC and 56 AD. In fact, according to the Bible, Judas was paid 30 pieces of silver to betray Jesus, and it's believed that that amount was actually paid in Tyrian shekels. A man named Ryan came into the pawn shop with one such shekel. However, he had already made some big mistakes. Coins of this age tend to lose value when cleaned or polished. Ryan, or the coin's previous owner, had obviously not known that, and the coin was thoroughly cleaned. Even if the coin was preserved, it likely would have only fetched around $1,200 at auction. But why? All the mysticism about these coins and the sheer age of them makes them alluring to new collectors. But this ancient Greek coin with biblical relevance is surprisingly common, and some can be purchased at auction for as little as $800. Because they're so common, many serious collectors overlook them currently. Unfortunately, Rick didn't realize that he had forked over $1,600 for it. Believe it or not, spending way too much on the common coin wasn't even the worst part of this deal. After the money had been handed over and the customer was long gone, a detective showed up to inform Gold and Silver that the recently purchased shekel was in fact stolen. Ryan did not steal it, however, he just bought it from somebody who did. Fortunately for Rick, the original owner had already received an insurance payout, and Gold and Silver was able to keep the coin. It is unknown exactly how much Rick eventually lost on this deal, but it is certain that he learned a valuable and expensive lesson. Total estimated loss? Unknown. Number 9. Ball and chain.
I've had a ball and chain for 50-some years, son.
Don't talk about my mother that way.
Rick was working the counter that day, and a man named Bill came into the shop with a Wells Fargo strongbox containing 2 pairs of antique handcuffs and 2 ball and chain sets, supposedly from the infamous Yuma and Folsom prisons. Almost immediately, Rick noticed that the craftsmanship was machine grade, including electric welds that blacksmiths could not have made. Additionally, each set bore a nameplate identifying what prison it was originated from, something that was not customary at the time. Hoping that at least the replica was rare, he offered the man $450, a fraction of what he had come looking for. But according to Mark Hill Patton, the Pawn Stars historic items expert, these ball and chain sets are one of the most frequently faked items out there, and Rick wouldn't have a chance of redeeming his $450 anytime soon. Total estimated loss? Unknown. Number 8. 1964 Austin Healey Sprite. Way back in Season 2, a man brought the Pawn Stars a 1964 Austin Healey Sprite, a tiny British sport car that is just 136 inches long. Despite being unable to start it, Rick bought it for $5,000. Unfortunately, when he had the vehicle identified by a mechanic, it became very clear that the repairs alone would cost them drastically more than he had spent on it. After confessing his error to father and mentor, Richard Harrison, he set the goal of reselling it as is and trying to break even. Total estimated loss? $0. Number 7. CHUMLEE'S comics.
I have my uncle's comic book collection.
When a woman named Chelsea came to the shop in the episode called CHUMLEE'S Risky Business, Chumlee wanted to prove that he knew what he was talking about when it came to comic books. Chelsea said she inherited the comics from her uncle and knew absolutely nothing about them. As it turns out, she may have known a little bit more than Chumlee. Against the advice of Antoine, another employee, he decided that there was likely around $1,500 worth of comics in the boxes, based on a small handful he examined. He spent a little while haggling with the woman before meeting her at $500. If Chumlee was right, they'd be making a dynamic profit. Unfortunately, after a lot of big talk, they called in the Pawn Stars comic book expert, Paul Litch, and he confirmed Antoine's fears. The total value of the buy? A maximum of $300. Total loss? $200, and CHUMLEE'S dignity. Number 6. CHUMLEE'S mandolin.
I have a Gibson mandolin.
The second disaster involving a knee-jerk deal by CHUMLEE, this one took place in Season 4. CHUMLEE was alone in the shop when a man came in with a vintage mandolin that he had purchased at a yard sale. Earlier that same day, Rick had purchased a different mandolin that was expected to get a good return. Probably feeling a little bit competitive, CHUMLEE was eager to strike a deal, and that's just what he did, paying $1,500 for the instrument. Not only was it too much, it was $500 over his lending limit. When Gold and Silver's guitar expert Jesse set eyes on the instrument, he immediately recognized it as one of many identical fakes, worth no more than $100. Total loss? $1,400. Number 5. Fool me once.
I didn't have that much experience here, and being the typical 18-year-old kid, I thought I knew everything.
Despite growing up in the pawn industry, it took Corey Harrison a number of bad deals to really get a feel for what he was doing. Among these deals were 6 different Rolex watches in 1 week that all turned out to be fakes. Total estimated loss? $4,000. Number 4. Willie Mays jersey.
What do we got? Hey, I got a 61 Willie Mays uniform.
When a man named John came to Gold and Silver with a Willie Mays jersey during Season 6, Corey was taken with what appeared to be a piece of sports history. Along with CHUMLEE, he examined it, noting several key details, including detailed hand stitching and handwritten measurements along the seams inside, something that was customary at the time. There was, however, one thing that stood out to the two longtime pawnbrokers immediately. The jersey was in seemingly mint condition, something that was inconsistent with having been worn during a major league game, something that John claimed early on. Despite having their doubts, Corey did a deal with him for an astounding $31,000. They tried to resell it in the shop for $80,000, but unfortunately it stayed there for another 2 years before being sent to auction, where it returned a mere $20,000 of the initial investment. The new owner took steps to have it authenticated and failed, and as it turns out, the jersey had never been worn in a professional game, and never could have belonged to Willie Mays. Total estimated loss? $11,000. Number 3. Say It Ain't So, Joe.
I have a book signed by Shoeless Joe Jackson.
During Season 6, a man named Pete brought Rick a book called Say It Ain't So, Joe, a book chronicling one of professional sports' most incredible scandals. Joe Jackson was one of Major League Baseball's most phenomenal rising stars, but the 1919 season spelled disaster for him and 7 others, when he was implicated in the historic Black Sox scandal. The allegation stated that 8 players were involved in a conspiracy to fix the 1919 World Series. The case went to trial and the men were found not guilty, however. The commissioner of baseball had a point to prove, so he immediately gave all 8 men a lifetime ban, preventing them from playing baseball in any capacity ever again. Among these men was Joe Jackson. Flash forward nearly 100 years, and Rick Harrison of Gold and Silver Pawn was googly-eyed over a copy of Say It Ain't So, Joe that was signed by none other than Jackson himself. There was one catch, though. Joe Jackson was illiterate, and as a result, signing his name was an extreme struggle for him. Because of this, it's believed that there may be only one authentic signature remaining in the world. Rick didn't know that, though, as he took a fraudulent letter of authenticity at face value. Rick wound up paying a bone-chilling $13,000 for the book that was no more valuable than, well, the book right now, which is about $12 new if you buy it online. Total estimated loss? $12,990. Number 2. Cubic zirconia. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, cubic zirconia was sweeping the globe. Nowadays, they represent the most common diamond substitute in the high-end artificial jewelry, with some pieces selling for hundreds of dollars. But in 1976, when they were first made available to the public, they represented a low-cost alternative to diamonds that looked stunningly similar, and testing methods at the time couldn't detect the difference. The Gold and Silver Pawn Shop opened in 1981, and Richard Harrison found himself a victim of many cubic zirconia scams before testing technologies caught up and he was able to fight back. He wasn't the only one affected. This period represents a notoriously dark time for the pawn industry, and anyone buying jewelry secondhand. Total estimated loss? $30,000.
I saved the best for last, but first, I have a quick challenge that takes only 5 seconds to complete. If you can leave a like and subscribe within the next 5 seconds, you'll get 10 years of amazing luck. Just try it, it really works.
Number 1. Vick flicks Fender.
So where did you get this thing?
This guitar's been with me for years.
Vick Flick is one of the world's most prolific session artists, and while you might not know his name, you've almost certainly heard his music. He's recorded with artists including Herman's Hermits, Nancy Sinatra, Dusty Springfield, Tom Jones, Cliff Richard, and Paul McCartney. He was also the first to record the timeless James Bond theme that has transcended generations. In the October 24, 2013 episode of Pawn Stars, Vick brought in his 1961 Fender Stratocaster, the very one that he used on Tom Jones' iconic track, It's Not Unusual. After bringing in guitar expert Jesse Amoroso, Rick agreed to pay $55,000 for the vintage guitar, and everyone was happy. Unfortunately, while Vick had been indelibly woven into the history of music, very, very few people know his name, and as a result, the implied star power they had hoped would propel the sale didn't, and it sat in the shop with a price tag of $90,000. After months of it simply collecting dust, they took it to auction, where it pulled in an impressive yet disappointing $20,000, making their total loss on this deal $35,000. Ouch. Those were 10 deals that went terribly wrong for the Pawn Stars. Which one was your favorite? Go ahead and let me know in the comments below. Until next time, thanks for watching.